Yeah,
Yes.
43 and 44. I
Yes.
seriously doubt we'll get to 44 because there's so much to talk about on 43.
Whatever you speak,
Really,
whatever the next.
after all these speakers, I still coming at the end, I get the best verse. It's mercy.
It is the best verse.
I thought I would get something obscure, some leftover, but some or other, I got the best verse.
Sorry, what is the canto, the chapter and the verse?
7th canto, 9th chapter, 43rd verse.
Thank you.
Nebo vijay paradaraja vaitaranya tadvirya gayana mahamrita chikna so chetato chedasha indriya so chetato vimukta chedasha indriyata maya sukhaya param udbahato vimudan. Translation. Om Aganati Mirandasya Ganagana Salakaya Chaksurin Miritam Yana Tajmai Sri Gurve Maha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sapitam Yana Bhutare Swayam Rupakaramayam Darati Swaparantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Siyata Parakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavam Sa Sri Rupam Sagadatam Sahagana Raganatam Vitam Stam Sajavam Sadvaitam Sabarutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakan Vitam Cha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutade Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Tanamane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pachari Nirvishes Sunyavadi Praskata Desadhani Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadigor Bhaktivinda Narayanam Namaskritam Naram Jiva Narottamam Devam Sarasatim Vyasam Tato Jyotirat Nesta Prayashu Bhadri Sud Nitya Bhagata Sevya Bhagati Uttamashoki Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. Excuse, I'm a little hoarse. One of the effects of the lockdown is, like many others, doing more online events, more preaching than ever before. In fact, I keep my throat lozenges right here, not too far away where I can reach them. I'll give the translation here and then we'll comment. O best of great personalities, Prahlada Maharaj says, I am not at all afraid of material existence, for wherever I stay, I'm fully absorbed in thoughts of your glories and activities. My concern is only for the fools and rascals who are making elaborate plans for material happiness and maintaining their families, societies, and countries. I am simply concerned with love for them. The material world has been described in the Bhagavad Gita as dukkhalayam asashvatam, temporary and miserable, but these fools are trying to turn the material world into sukhalayam. Is it just me, or did Prabhupada make a really good joke there? A place of happiness, not knowing how everything acts by the arrangement of material nature, which works in her own way. Prakriti kramanani gunaya karmanasa ahankara vimara kartamiti manyate. The bewildered soul, under the influence of the three modes of material nature, thinks himself to be the doer of activities that are in actuality carried out by nature itself. There's a plan for material nature, personally known as Durga, to punish the demons. Although the asuras, the godless demons, struggle for existence, they are directly attacked by the goddess Durga, who is well equipped with 10 hands with different types of weapons to punish them. She is carried by her lion carrier, or the modes of passion and ignorance. Everyone struggles very hard to fight through the modes of passion and ignorance and conquer material nature, but at the end, everyone is vanquished by material loss. Shristi Stiti Pralaya Shadana Shakti Eka Chayeva Yasha Bhuvanai Viparti Chana Rupam Vipashana Chestate Shah Govindam Aripurusham Tamahang Vijami. Well, people generally approach Durga because she's the goddess of material nature for wealth, for strength, for fame, for a good wife. Particularly in Bengal in October, there's lots and lots of Durga pujas going on. And it's true, by pleasing Durga, you'll get benefits like that. But two things need to be noted. One is that the benefits are temporary, and the other is that Durga is going to kill you. So, just like Ravana, he thought that he was going to get Sita, which represent the internal energy of Lord Ramachandra. And instead, he got Maya Sita. He got Durga instead of Sita. And he might as well have just put a noose around his neck, because that was the end of him. As soon as he presumed to appropriate Ram's internal energy illicitly, That was it. That was his denouement. That was his death sentence. And it wasn't like Ravana didn't have many wives already. It did not like he didn't have many residences, much wealth, fame. But for him, enough is never enough. They just don't know when to stop. Yasa sta vidhimu sija vartate, nasa siddhamapnoti, nasukam naparam gatim. Those who act capriciously without reference to the scriptures. And what do the scriptures do? The scriptures give us sober reflections about who we are, why we're here, and what the purpose of human form of life is. Scriptures indicate that we're not these bodies, of course, we're spirit souls, and our real home is the spiritual world. Now, whatever scripture you consult, the prescription for purifying yourself of this material world and weaning yourself of materialism is going to involve discipline. It's going to involve restrictions. It's going to involve things that you're not allowed to do. Well, Ravana is the antithesis of that because he had more wealth, more food, more palaces, more wives than any man could reasonably enjoy in one lifetime. And yet there was no check there. There was no scriptural reference. There was no scriptural check. There was no discipline. I honestly don't know what asuras like that are thinking. I mean, you can own, Prabhupada said, you may have 10 houses and $1 billion in the bank, but you're probably just going to sit down and eat dal, rice, and chapati. So what are you trying to prove by all of that? And in the end, because Ravana wasn't satisfied, he didn't agree to put any checks on his appetites. It brought him down into the dust by Ram's arrows. And that's the main shackles in this material world, the shackles of attraction from man to a woman. It's not that in Krishna consciousness we deny it. Balam badabacham chaham kama ragabya dharma vira kamoshmin badatarshava. Krishna says, I am that sex life, which is according to regular principle. So it's not that you can't enjoy sex life and marriage life, but again, to elevate yourself higher, to get unstuck from this material world, you have to do it under regulation. You have to do it under prescription. There's an episode in the Bhagavatam. His name is Agnidra. And I don't think he had much experience of the opposite sex because he runs across a damsel named Purvachiti somewhere in the woods. And he's only ever seen young boys, but he notices her peculiar features. And particularly he notices her eyebrows. And it's by the curvature of her eyebrows and by the special quality of her glances, her darting glances, that he doesn't know what girls are, but he knows this is not a boy. This is someone far more dangerous than any boy I ever met. And he addresses her. He says, I'm out in the forest. You're out in the forest. Are you here hunting with your eyebrows as bows? And are you shooting arrows at maddened animals in the jungle? How many men, Caesar, Antony, Napoleon, Samson, they conquered the whole world. They had vast armies of virile men following them. They defeated impressive opponents, only themselves to be defeated by, hello there, the arrows proceeding from between the eyebrows of the fair sex. Now, if you followed scripture and lived a sober, balanced life, you wouldn't be susceptible to these kinds of things. But if you believe in pursuing sense gratification unlimitedly, then you're going to fall prey to a beautiful woman and intoxication, meat eating. Why? Because you become maddened. Prabhupada says, If you're in a jungle where there's a lot of dangers and you don't know your way, that's very risky. That's very risky. But you have a good chance of making your way out. However, if you're in there and you're drunk, you're intoxicated in a very dangerous situation, then you have no chance of survival, none whatsoever. So those who are guided by scriptural restraints, they may not be unaware of all the temptations of material life, but they also have that reservoir of restraint. They have as their goal paramvyam, the spiritual world, and they're willing to invest, to make certain sacrifices in this world in order to terminate the cycle of birth, death, disease, and old age and go back to home, back to Godhead. But those who know nothing other than this world, asatyam, apratistam te, jagadahoda, parashpara sambutyam, kimanyat, kamahitakam, kimanyat, they don't know anything but matter. They don't know anything but what's right. Someone needs to mute themselves there. Puku. They don't know anything but what's right in front of their eyes. And so they're incapable of exercising restraint. And however big and mighty a leader they may be, they are susceptible to being brought down by a glance from someone's eyes. Nonam pramata kurute vikarma yad indriya aproniti. Nasaro mane yatarama. No, that's not. Nonam pramata kurute vikarma yad indriya pritaya prinoti. One who is maddened by sense gratification, who's just off the charts. Another example, the body does require some temperature, 98.6. That level of heating we require in the body. But if you think 98.6 is good, 103 will be better, that's a fatal calculation. So we require food, we require shelter. Most of us require to get married and raise children. That's 98.6. But demons who are mad after sense control, just like the animals in the forest, they're way beyond what's balanced. They're way beyond what's normal. They're way beyond what's recommended. Continuing here in the purport, and they get killed. They get killed. Durga's, the plan is for them to go after Durga, and then Durga eventually kills them. Then they take birth again. Nonam pramata kurite vikara yadindriya. They already took this birth because their consciousness was colored by sense gratification from a previous life. And it was that mentality of consciousness of a previous life which landed them into another body in the current life. Now they're doing nothing to change that. Nothing to change that. And so just as they've come into this material body, subject to birth, death, disease, and old age, because of their consciousness from a previous life, they're perpetuating the cycle, continuing to pursue sense gratification, continuing to take birth over and over and over and over and over again. This is called punatpanas charvita charvananam, chewing the chewed. I remember as a young boy growing up in Pennsylvania, my father was a minor businessman, but he wanted me to be a major businessman. He wanted me to follow his footsteps, and he never said so in so many words, but his goal was for me to attend an Ivy League college, and he was very careful about showing me how to golf at the local country club, because golfing is a way to make business connections and make friends, and on the golf course probably more deals are put together than in the boardroom. And I could tell that he was grooming me to follow in his footsteps, and yet this was not a happy man, and his generation was not a happy generation. They went off to the war fields in Normandy, Dunkirk. They died in mud and trenches and blood. So they didn't get it right, I don't think. And if you look back at their fathers, and you have World War I, and then you have the Spanish-American War, and then you have the Civil War, and you have so much evidence that future generations have not got it right. They have followed in the footsteps of their father, who followed the grandfather, but they have not arrived at any sort of level of satisfaction or purposefulness. Now, here's my point. Even though they haven't achieved anything solid, substantial in their life, they want nothing other than their own children to follow in their footsteps. They want their children to chew the chewed, to do exactly what they've done. Some or other, I think they feel it might complete them or validate them, make up for their own failure. Maybe there's a subtext there that when their son fails, that will validate their own failure, because you'll never achieve success in the material world because it's just not set up that way. Maya is there at every step of the way. Durga. Ga means go, and dur means tough. So there's friction, there's opposition, there are enemies, there are critics, there are viruses, adiadmic, adibiotic, adidivic, to ensure that you're never going to achieve unmitigated, uncompromising meaning, purposefulness, and satisfaction in this world. If you're hoping for it, you're an illusion, and you're just looking in the wrong place. That's all there is to it. We're only here to get killed by Maya unless we take the alternative path of following scriptural injunctions, attaching ourselves to a spiritual master, and learning the path of nirvriti, pravriti, license for sense gratification, got us into this ocean of birth and death. And nirvriti is what's going to extract us from this ocean of birth and death. So in the next verse of the purport, Prabhupada explains more about why it's absolutely hopeless to achieve any level of success, any meaningful success in this material world. Bhagavad Gita 7:14. Devi Hashagunamayi Matamaya Daratya. This divine energy of mind, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is very difficult to overcome. Prabhupada says the same word, daratya, meaning very difficult, is used here. Therefore, one cannot surpass the stringent laws of material nature except by the mercy of the Lord. Nonetheless, although all materialists are baffled in their plans, they try again and again to be happy in this material world. Therefore, they have been described as vimuda, first-class fools. I think it was Einstein said the definition of an imbecile is you do the same thing over and over again and expect a different result. Has anybody ever heard of a contagion jumping from plants or grains to human beings? Anybody ever heard of that happening in the history of the world? No, it happened. It goes from animals to humans. So will they close the factory farms? Will they close the wet markets? Not this category of person. Deeming the meat packing plants as essential components of the economy. A few days ago, our peerless leader subsidized them $1 billion. $1 billion, deeming meat as essential, when those same plants are hotbeds, hot spots of coronavirus. And the virus itself started from a wet market, jumping from animals to humans in China. But would it occur to them to do something different? Would it occur to them to think that God is trying to get our attention and teach us a lesson that God wants us to do something new and distance ourselves from the cause of all this trouble and anguish and anxiety? 100,000 Americans have died, and probably twice that more will before everything's said and done. But has it occurred to anybody to cut it off at its source, to stop the factory farms, stop the wet markets? Not only has it not occurred to them, but he just gave $1 billion so that the food chain not be interrupted. And annually, the meat industry is subsidized by the United States government $38 billion. If those subsidies were to disappear, the meat industry couldn't compete even for a day in the United States of America. But what are we saying here? There are two classes of people. The class of people who are called asuras, who are without any redeeming godly qualities, will not agree to reduce or to look at or inspect or scrutinize, what to speak of reduce or restrain, the causes of our suffering, which is sense gratification. Just the opposite, they are committed to pursuing sense gratification unlimitedly. Those who are essentially pious, suras, they may, be misled, they may be eating meat, they may be taking intoxication and all, but they're open to the idea of reducing that, of cutting out the cause of our suffering and thereby reducing suffering itself as an effect. And in any reformative, rehabilitative process like that, there's going to be certain guidelines, isn't it? If you have diabetes, the doctor will tell you no sugar. He's not trying to spoil your fun, but he's trying to get you to an optimally healthy state of life. Yeah. Someone is addicted to eating meat, and we don't say necessarily to that person, stop eating meat. If you're in India and you're in the traditional Indian culture and you wanted to eat meat, 100 years ago, or even today in a rural village, we say eat a goat on the dark moon night after offering it to Kali. And if he's open to that, then he's basically a devotee, because he's open to the idea of decreasing, scaling down the madness of sense gratification in the interest of becoming sane and sober and getting ultimate liberation. Someone wants sex life. Yanmai tunadi gramedi sukamita chum. The number one shackle in this material world is sex life. So it's natural that we want sex life. So sex life is there according to scripture. Kalushmin lokasa. What is it? Kamushmin vadadarshava. Get married, be satisfied with one wife, have sex, and produce children. So there are pravritams, things that we naturally are inclined to because we have these bodies, we're in this material world. That's sex life, it's intoxication, it's meat eating. But if you're willing to follow them according to the scriptural nivritams, so that you can gradually become free from those addictions and get out of those shackles, then that's a devotee. In other words, you're moving in the right direction. But those who are non-devotees, they want to increase all these things. They don't want to reduce them, but to speak of eliminating, they want to increase all these things. Our fearless leader, again, took advantage of the coronavirus shutdown to remove all environmental controls, all environmental penalties, so that while we're under the lockdown, big corporations can ravage the earth, pollute the environment to a greater degree. So there are two divisions. Prabhupada indicated at some point, because the one type of person, they can be reformed. They can be worked with, they can be preached to, but the other, they cannot. They will not ever Matir na Krishna parato shotova mito vipajara griha bratanam. They have taken a vow to indulge the senses. That's what we're here for. Eat, drink, sleep, and be merry. Adanta gopir vishatamja puna panas charveta charvananam. It's almost impressive, actually, the amount of faith they have in matter and in sensual indulgence. It's almost impressive, the faith they have. Even though the whole history of humankind is a history of war, bloodshed, chaos, mayhem, destruction, Rome, Carthage, Greece, Sparta, Athens, France, Napoleonic France, the British Lion, now the American Eagle. We're just chewing the chew. We're going the same route that all the predecessors went. And yet, in spite of all this evidence to the contrary, the materialistic person thinks, oh, we're so close. I know we haven't got there yet, but we're so close. It's just a matter of making a few adjustments, a few extra tweaks, and we'll get there magically. Prabhupada says the bewildered material sense civilization, the bewildered material civilization. Here, continuing in the purport here. As for Prahlada Maharaj, he was not at all unhappy, for although he was in the material world, he was full of Krishna consciousness. Those who are Krishna consciousness, trying to serve the Lord, are not unhappy. Whereas one who has no assets in Krishna consciousness and is struggling for existence is not only foolish, but extremely unhappy also. Prahlada Maharaj was happy and unhappy simultaneously. He felt happiness and transcendental bliss because of being Krishna conscious, yet he felt great unhappiness for the fools and rascals who make elaborate plans to be happy in this world. Once Prabhupada was giving a talk in Uppsala University, which I've heard is the Harvard of Sweden. And he talked in great detail about the Brahmin and his duties, samodamotava shocham. And the Brahmin is the first class man, and the Kshatriya, the warrior administrator, he's the second class man. The Vaishya is the third class man. And then the Sudras, the workers and laborers and artisans, they are the fourth class man. So one obstreperous person in the audience raised their hand and said, so what class are you, Swamiji? Fully expecting probably to say, we are Brahmins, we are first class men. And Prabhupada put his head down, and some versions say even a tear or two came to his eyes. He said, we're fifth class men. We're not first, second, third, we're fifth class men, because our aim as Vaishnavas, servants of the Lord, is to elevate all the other classes of men, to instruct them as they are willing to accept it. However, the fools, which Prabhupada calls here, what does he call it? Vimudhans, the first class fools, they'll not accept good instruction. It says when you instruct a fool, when you give a fool good advice, instead of taking it, he actually becomes angry. And one story in this connection, I just wanted to share it with you. In Australia, at one point we had this row house in St. Kilda, very close to where the present temple is, in the same neighborhood. And it was a row house, and so there wasn't much space between our row house and the next row house, extremely congested. But in this courtyard where the sun really only shined maybe half an hour a day because of the house, there was this gangly, tall tree. And our temple was 3 stories high. And the tree went up 3 stories high, and it was bare in the winter. So the brahmacharis, we all lived on the 3rd story with Madhavisa, the sannyasi. And the branches of that tree made a great place to hang your kopans out to dry. You could wash them by hand in the sink and then just open the window and hang them on the limbs of the tree. So we were reading from Corma's Great Transcendental Adventure. And I remembered that on Prabhupada's visit to Australia, when he visited that temple in St. Kilda, he looked at that tree and he said, that tree was the owner of the house in a previous lifetime. He was so attached to the house that he took his birth wanting to be near the house, and now he's standing there with his leg in the ground and his arms outstretched, holding up the brahmachari's kopans. For those who are not open to Krishna consciousness, they've actually taken a vow. They've taken a vow that I will not entertain any thoughts of spirituality or spiritual progress. So it is said, Moga shall moga karmano moga jnana, vichedasha raksasim asurim chaiva, prakritim mohanim sritaham. Those who are thus bewildered and attracted by demoniac and atheistic views, in that deluded condition, their hopes for liberation, their fruitive activities, and their culture of knowledge are all defeated. Did you know that during the 2 months of the lockdown in America, carbon monoxide in New York City fell by 50%? Worldwide emissions are down 17%. Meat plants are closing. There's a great call for the end of factory farming and closing of meat plants. The sales of meat substitutes like Impossible Burger and Beyond Meat are up 50%. 200,000 people in America are killed every year by pollution, and pollution is down now by 20%. It even means due to the reduced pollution, fewer people are going to die from the coronavirus because their immune systems are not quite so compromised. What are we seeing here? We're seeing that Krishna's shaking things up. He's giving us a nice tap on the wrist. He could be bringing down upon us, hailing, raining down upon us, fire and smoke and destruction and brimstone, according to the karma that we fully deserve. Krishna is so kind that he's just giving us a little tap on the wrist. And as we look at the effects of being restricted, we didn't do it voluntarily, most of us. So Krishna loves us too much to let us just go on unbridled. He forces us into a position where we have to stop, restart, reevaluate what's working, what's not working. And hopefully, when we come out of this, we're going to do things differently. We're going to be open for change, for some of the restraints that we were not open for before. This is Krishna's gentle warning to us. And there are so many people saying, wow, we need to take the hints from this time, spend more time with our families, deepen our relationship, take our walks with God, chant our rounds, not be so crazy over joining in the rat race, live more simply, live more sustainably. There are people all over the world who want to come out of this lockdown doing things differently. Because we didn't do it voluntarily, Krishna's gently tutoring us. He's gently guiding us. But there are others who cannot wait to storm back, not only 100%, if it was up to them, 120%, 150%, open up the economy, doesn't matter what the collateral damage is, doesn't matter what the loss of life, doesn't matter these subliminal benefits that people get and that the planet itself enjoys. Life is all about nonam pramata kurutevi karma, indulging your senses maximally. No recognition, that there's a higher power and control, no restraint whatsoever. Therefore, Krishna wants us to preach. There are many, many people out there that are more open than they've ever been before. And they're basically innocent. They may be addicted to bad habits right now, but you'd have to be an out and out demon not to see that our unrestricted pursuance of bad habits has gotten us into the place that we are now. And unless you want a sterner rebuke from the Lord, unless you actually want to get karmic reaction, because this is hardly karmic reactions, this is love tap. But so much more could come should we ignore the signs that are before us during this lockdown. National Geographic in 1986, they published a feature article showing photos from the eruption of Vesuvius and the destruction of Pompeii. Seems to have caught people. They were shopping at the grocery market and they were petrified as they stood. They were in the public baths and they were just caught right out there in the streets, in their homes. But the interesting thing was that there had been many signs leading up to that disastrous day. There had been many, many rumblings for days, if not weeks, before the final eruption of Vesuvius. The day before, there was a plume of smoke that came up from the mouth of the volcano. But what was the problem? They were warned. They had ample signs, but they were not open to it. They were intent on their plans and their baths and their sensuality and their parties and their orgies and whatever all went on in that time. So they were caught unawares, but they weren't unwarned. They were unawares. They were caught, but they were warned. Krishna gave them ample time to get out of the old ways and do something new. As devotees, sometimes people say carpe diem, seize the day. But we need to, at this point, take the point, be ahead of the crowd, and carpe mañana. We need to see how we want to come out of this lockdown, what works and what doesn't work, what we need to do different. We need to be open for change. Krishna works in new, fresh ways all the time. When Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was talking to the sannyasis in Benares, they asked him, why you chant Hare Krishna? And he told them that tasting the fruits of chanting Hare Krishna, you're free from old age and death. Amara Agnaya Guru Haya Tara Yadesh. And he said, my spiritual master said this to me. Nacha Gao Bhakti Sangha Kara Sankirtana Krishna Nama Upadeshi Tara Sarva Jana. My dear child, Lord Chaitanya's guru said to him, continue dancing, chanting, and performing Sankirtan in association with devotees. Furthermore, go out and preach the value of chanting Krishna Nama. For by this process, you will be able to deliver all fallen souls. Prabhupada says, a person who has attracted the attention of the spiritual master by his sincere service likes to chant and dance with similarly developed Krishna conscious devotees. The spiritual master authorizes such a devotee to deliver fallen souls in all parts of the world. Whatever you have, talents, abilities, resources, use it, recognize that it comes from God, it belongs to God. It's not about us. It's not under our ownership or our proprietorship. Everything that surrounds us, including our very selves, are created by God to honor him and to put him first place. And when we step into the middle of that purpose for which we were created, we get the fullness of his blessings. The vaults of heaven open up. Ananyas chintayantamam yechana bari Tesham yoga sema bahami aham. Whatever you need, abundance, wealth, intelligence, creativity, followers, resources, temples, buildings, transport, that will be supplied to someone who has attained the attention of the spiritual master and received the blessing of the spiritual master to approach the misguided population of the world in general and to inform them of the great benefits of accepting restraints, accepting the new way that Krishna wants us to comport ourselves with the ultimate goal of going back to home, back to God. Prabhupada says here, for one who has actually advanced, preaching and meeting people who are not engaged in devotional service are not disadvantages. A devotee gives the non-devotees his association, but is not affected by their misbehavior. And what better example than Prahlada Maharaj, 5-year-old boy, born in a whole dynasty of demons. And yet he was not polluted by them. Rather, he transformed all of his schoolmates out there during the recess period. And ultimately, he was the handle, the axe handle that decimated the whole entire race of demons. So not only was he not, it appeared that he was in danger, but being protected by the Lord, he was never in danger at all. Although his father had done many atrocities prior to Prahlada's coming into the world, the Lord did not curtail Hiranyakashipu. Durga Devi did not kill him. But after Prahlada Maharaj appeared in the world, then it was said to Lord Brahma by Lord Vishnu, Naraya Prashantaya Swasuta Mahatmane Praradaya Dija Denishe Piva Rorjitam. The moment that Hiranyakashipu harasses my faithful, surrendered devotee who is peaceful and who thinks of the well-being of all living beings, at that moment, I will kill him, Denishe Piva Rorjitam, despite the benedictions of Lord Brahma. So go ahead, attract the attention of the spiritual master, the pleasure of the Lord, by preaching vigorously to those people who are marginal, who may have some bad habits, but who are open to changing them, and become the most dear. Nacha tajman manusheshu kastid me priyaditi kamaha bhavita nacha anya parataro ubi. Krishna says practically in the concluding verse of the Bhagavad Gita, for those who share, who spread this gospel of Krishna consciousness, of self-restraint in the interest of going back to home, back to Godhead, there are no servants more dear to me in the world. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Are we ready to ask questions?
Charidas Prabhu,
I'm here.
can you hear me?
Yes.
Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Please accept this from
Thank
Portugal.
you.
Portugal.
Yes, Azores Archipelago. Yes, 9 Portuguese islands in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. Prabhu, I have several questions in accordance with the lecture you just gave us. I don't know how many questions I may ask. So the first one is the verse you chose for the class of today is based on Prahlada's teachings. And one of the teachings I am used to in terms of hearing from the devotees is that Prahlada said, at least once, I think, that when a living entity living in the material world begins to struggle for happiness, that is the very moment when his unhappiness begins. So I need you, if I may ask, to elaborate on this point, because I do not understand it.
Prahlada Maharaj says the greatest cause of unhappiness in this world is when people try for happiness. In other words, like Prabhupada quipped right there in the beginning of the purport, this world is dukkalium. That's how it's made up, because Krishna loves us too much to want us to get comfortable and get stuck here. Therefore, there's all kinds of miseries in this material world to motivate us to go back home, back to Godhead. But instead of recognizing it for what it is, dukkalium, the asuras, they want to try to make it sukkalium. They want to make it a place of happiness instead of a place of dukkalium. So in doing so, they directly confront, they become direct offenders to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And with that posture, they're going to incur the specific displeasure of the Lord. The material world is for our good. God gets no pleasure out of seeing us suffer in this world. But the point is that if we don't suffer, then we won't go back to home, back to Godhead, where life is eternal, full of bliss and knowledge. If the prison house was a 5-star resort, you know, we'd all be tripping over each other to do a crime to get in there. But the prison is not our home. Polite, civilized society is where we should be, outside of the prison house. There's a poem about this, if I may. Serene, I fold my arms and wait, nor care for wind, nor tide, or sea. I rave no more against tide or fate, for lo, my own shall come to me. Asleep, awake, by night or day, the friends I seek are seeking me. No wind can drive my ship astray, nor change the tide of destiny. The waters know their own, and draw the brook that springs from yonder height. So flows the good with equal law unto the soul of pure delight. What matter if I stand alone? I wait with joy the coming years. My heart will reap where it is sown. I garner up my fruit of tears. The stars spring nightly to the sky, the tidal waves into the sea. Nor time, nor space, nor deep or high shall keep my own away from me. So what is he saying? He says God's got it all figured out. He's got it all lined up. If you strive unduly, unauthorizedly, mightily, you're just gonna miss. Krishna's gonna step back and you're gonna be on your own. So trust him. Work, try to figure out what his anointing is on you and get in the middle of that. But trying for happiness in this temporary material world is simply a waste of time, and it's also offensive to the Lord. If you don't think that if you attain his lotus feet, you're going to be happy. In him are all things. We need only to seek him, not seek anything independent of him.
Yes, Charu Prabhu. But if we do not struggle for material happiness, for happiness here in the material world, what should we do? Instead of searching for happiness in the material world, and that is what Prahlada doesn't want us to do, what quality of life, what lifestyle should we choose?
Prahlada says, Mahamrita Magna Chitta, says, I chant and I honor God, and thus I submerge myself in an unlimited ocean of nectar. And therefore I have no concern for my own happiness. I have everything I want in the terms of the holy name, association of devotees. We have an acre of land here in Spanish Fork, and we have we have 15 acres, but we have an acre under cultivation since so many years. We grow zucchinis, tomatoes, all kinds of melons, flowers for offering to the deities. Honestly, there is no happiness that can compare to just getting out in the garden, getting down on your knees with other devotees, pulling up weeds, tweaking the irrigation system. And talking and communing with each other, going back to the temple at 1 o'clock for a meal of organic, locally grown food that's been offered to Krishna. What do you need more than that? What do you need more than your own land, which makes you independent, your friends and relatives nearby, not hundreds and thousands of miles away, wholesome, fresh food, an altar, the service of the Lord, periodic get-togethers for kirtans on birthdays and anniversaries and special occasions. Honestly, it may sound simplistic, it may sound dull or boring, but it's not. It's not at all. This is where the juice is. This is the life that Krishna intended for us to live. And if we lived this kind of a life, or even moved in that direction, the problems of the world, the stresses would go away. Just like so many positive changes have happened in the last 2 months. And then there are people who applaud those changes and say, let's keep it up, let's keep going. And then there are people who absolutely hate those changes because they interrupt their mad pursuit of sense gratification.
Charu Prabhu, in accordance with your answer, my understanding is that this world belongs to God, and if we do not accept the role of servants, there is no, there will be only misery and suffering for us.
I gave a class once at University of Utah at a philosophy class, and the teacher, he was a Bengali and he was very secular. And so he thought it was his duty to kind of dispose the class against Bhakti and Vaishnavism before I came. He thought that this was his role to present the other side, the anti. And so when I walked into the classroom and gave my talk, the questions were quite aggressive. You know, the students take their cue from the teachers. If the teacher says, oh, we're so honored, we're so lucky to get through, we found this and this and this, then the questions will be respectful. But if the questions are harsh, hard, challenging questions, you know, the teacher's been a busy little beaver before you came. So anyway, one student, he said very aggressively, he said, if God created the world for us to enjoy, then he should be happy that we're enjoying. And I said, but he didn't. He didn't create the world for you to enjoy. Any creator, any entrepreneur, any venture capitalist puts money into a factory or a manufacturing facility in order to own the products that are created there, to sell them and to enjoy the results of them. That's the dynamic of any creator. They want to enjoy that which they created. But add into the equation the fact that God is our Father, we're his children's, and the paternal affection comes from him. It has its origin in Krishna. If there's any father or parent or mother in any species that loves their child anywhere in the material spiritual creation, the origin of that is Krishna. And so how does he enjoy? He enjoys by seeing us well situated, happy, healthy, philosophically astute, enjoying intimate relationships with others, and most especially an intimate relationship with him. So the fact that the Father wants to enjoy and that we're here for his enjoyment does not in any way subtract from our pleasure-seeking propensity. In fact, it is the exact connection that we need to make to fully enjoy a meaningful and purposeful life.
Yes, And the problem is, and you in your lecture, you said about preaching in order to solve the problem and help the suffering people, the ones who doesn't know that this world belongs to God, and we should be in yoga with him for us to have at least a better quality of life. So as preachers, when we preach, how to convince the ignorant people that we are not here to do it on our own, but we are here to do the opposite, to submit ourselves to the will of the owner, of the supreme owner of everything. What to say to these people?
It's not what we say to them so much as how we comport ourselves. Our walking is a lecture. The way we work with our co-workers, that's a sermon. When we receive news of a loss of income or loss of a loved one, and how we react to that, that's a sermon. How we're doing during the lockdown, and people are noticing what we're doing, whether we're affected by it to the same degree that non-spiritual people are. That's our sermon. We preach a lot more with our behavior and our life than we do with our words. Someone gave the example of a thermometer and a thermostat. What the thermometer does, it takes the temperature. It goes along to get along. You walk into a room, and whatever the mood is, you immediately mix with that mood. If everybody's complaining about the boss and the company, you jump right in and you get to the same temperature as everybody in the room. But the thermostat is different. If you turn the thermostat, it can change the temperature in the room. So we should be known as devotees by the fact that when you enter a room, people stop complaining about the boss. They stop being slack at work. They look forward to our coming there, our positive comments, our encouraging words, the light that we bring into the room. And consequently, they want to know what it is that we have. So by being a thermostat instead of a thermometer, we can make a big difference in people's lives. It just means that we have to comport ourselves as representatives of Krishna. Krishna is a super excellent person, and as his ambassadors, we have to also strive for excellence in our relationships, in our work ethic, in our studies, in our families. And if we do this, we will be magnets to Krishna consciousness.
Just one more question, please. In connection with what we are speaking now, my question is about lust. And in your lecture, you spoke a lot about lust. There is a Vaishnava saying, we study it in Prabhupada's books, that if we invest in a lustful life, then we will never be satisfied, because the nature of lust is such that if you invest in lust, lust will never satisfy you. Can you explain this, please?
That's what motivates the Asuric people that we were talking about. Why do they never stop? Why don't they reach a point and say, I've got more than I could ever enjoy in my lifetime, or even I've got more than I and 5 generations preceding from me could enjoy in my, why is there no end point with them? And that's exactly the reason. You pinpointed exactly. Lust is so often compared to a fire. Problem is that if you add fuel to the fire, it's never going to go out. It's always going to get higher and higher and higher and higher. And it's true, as we reach the end of our lives, our bodies are no longer so pumped full of hormones. We're no longer so lusty on a physical level. But if you've lived a lifestyle which is patterned after lust in your youth, you're going to be lusty in your thoughts just out of habit. And so Prahlada Maharaj says, Komara machare pradnam dharmam bhagavanamiha. Before you even reach the terrible teens, as early as 5 years old, learn to get good association, learn how to be enlivened by spiritual topics, and how to eat properly so as not to inflame lust, how to seek this proper association so that you're not living among fools. And then when you reach the tough period of the teenage through the 20s and the 30s, you'll already have that brahmachari, tapasyena, brahmacharyena, you'll already have that foundation, and it's never easy, but you will be able to navigate those middle years and then come out the end and be free from lusty desires, ready to serve Krishna wholeheartedly and retire in a spiritual context. Prahlada Maharaj says, if you don't get that early training, dura purani kamina, mohina chabaliya sha, sesam griyashu shakta sha, pramata sha payatihi. Someone who's in householder life, they spend 20 or 30 years to raise a family. In order to raise a family, they have to go to work and associate in the marketplace, and they have to jostle for position in the company in order to make a good income. So this is all very potentially polluting, and it's a very lusty atmosphere. And so ideally, if they get the training in the early years, they'll be able to navigate and cope with those challenges of raising a family in such a way that not only they will be successful, but they'll be a light to their peers and their co-workers as well.
Charu Prabhu, a life of restraint should be applied even to the children. You spoke in your class a lot about restraint being the savior of the soul. And if we begin with restraint very early in our lives, then it will be possible to navigate the material world in a more spiritualized way. Is like that?
A restraint is not, it's not, what do you call it? What's the word we use?
Repression.
Yeah, restraint is not repression. Restraint, it can also take the face of alternate activities. You know, all the great devotees like King Parikshit, Prabhupada, Bhaktisiddhanta, they had as models their parents, and their parents were in the world. They were parents, and they were husbands and wives, and they had vocations, but they consecrated all of that by having a home altar. Prabhupada's father encouraged him to have the Rath Yatra celebration. Even Sukadeva Sutta Goswami noted right in the beginning, one of the early verses of Bhagavatam, Savai Bhagavato Rajav, Pandavyo Maharata, Bala Kridana Ka Kridan, Krishna Kridanya Adate. When the elders of the Pandava dynasty, like Yudhisthira and Arjuna and the elders, set a wonderful example of ruling not for sense gratification. They ruled as their service for Krishna. They ruled the kingdom in detachment. And as soon as there was an heir qualified, they left right away. They left right away. So they weren't in it for sense gratification. So when the up and coming members of the generation see that exemplary behavior and that detachment on behalf of their uncles and their fathers and their grandfathers, they're gonna naturally take that path themselves.
Yes. So let me just bring the first verbal message from Lord Krishna to Lord Brahma, the creator of this universe, tapas. The importance of austerity, the importance of tapasya in the life of a human being.
They say discipline is a dividing line, even in the material life. Those who are willing to restrict themselves to make sacrifice in order to focus on a specific goal and objective, they're the ones that are going to be successful. Bhogaishwarya prashaktanam tayapaditacha vyavashatmika buddhi eka kuru nandana. One must learn to be focused, and that means you have to limit the amount of things that you do. You know, most of us, if we really self-analyze, there's probably 2 or 3 really great things that we're equipped to do and what we're equipped to accomplish in this life. And so we need to focus on those things and accept everything that's favorable for honoring the Lord in that particular way and reject everything that's unfavorable. So a big part of tapasya can arise from just identifying the talents and abilities of God that are embedded in you and then striking out in order to pursue those. That will be something you love, and any austerities that you do in the course of pursuing your dream will be one that will be willingly and happily undertaken.
That is why Srila Prabhupada said that you can paint for Krishna, you can sing for Krishna, you can write books for Krishna. Any talent that you have, dovetail it for Krishna.
Exactly. And when you choose one thing, then that means you're leaving aside another thing. So when we choose Krishna, 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 then we're leaving aside Maya, 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 Maya. And restraint is automatically achieved.
And Prabhu, one last question. This is a personal question, if I may. Did you have any personal interaction with Srila Prabhupada?
A dozen or so times in India and America, and also in Australia. Prabhupada came
Did he give you any personal instruction in terms of seva for your whole life?
Twice I asked him, I said, Prabhupada, one time I was preaching on the college campuses and I wanted to verify with Prabhupada that that was a good service for me. So I said, Prabhupada, is there anything that you particularly want me to do in Australia? Because the spiritual masters, you know, he has he knows his disciple, and he also knows Krishna, who's in his heart and the heart of the disciple. So I asked Prabhupada, I said, you know, is there any particular service you want me to do? He said, what are you doing now? I said, well, I'm preaching on the college campuses. He said, do that. That's good. Then another time I basically said the same thing. And he said, what are you doing now? I said, well, I'm getting ready for the Rath Yatra. I'm organizing the Rath Yatra festival this year. He said, do that. So it appears that the service itself is not so important, and that the spiritual master is not going to be despotic necessarily in dictating what your service should be. Rather, he'll trust you to be introspective, to identify the thumbprint of God in your life, and to take it upon yourself to honor God according to the talents and abilities that he's given you.
Yes, but why is it that without the help of a spiritual master, you cannot get there?
The bodies that we have are given to us out of forgetfulness of Krishna. Whether it's in the mode of goodness or passion or ignorance, whether it's Brahma or Shiva or the insignificant ant, our bodies are bodies that we get as a result of forgetting Krishna. And our minds are in the same category. Our body and minds are awarded to us because of our desire to forget Krishna. Krishna baliya se jiva bahir nadir moka. Soon as we forget Krishna, then we get involved face to face, back and forth, reciprocally with the actions, reactions of this material world. So then you cannot on your own, with this body which represents forgetfulness of Krishna, you cannot on your own rediscover Krishna. You cannot find where you left Krishna. You need a spiritual master in order to do that. Nobody said it better than Prahlada Maharaj. Nate vidu shwarta gatimi Vishnu darasya ye bahir arta manina. All those who are blinded by the darkness of this material world and who are following similarly blinded leaders need to avail themselves of the light of a spiritual master who can take them back to home, back to Godhead.
Charu Prabhu, before I thank you for your very merciful answers, let me just say this last note. If we send you an invitation for you to come and preach in Portugal, at least for a short period of time, would you come?
You know, I'm not a traveler. I get so much done here in Spanish Fork. I travel with the Festive Colors for the purpose of preaching, but I don't envy the swamis and sannyasis who are always getting on and off planes. I'd rather spend that time reading or chanting or organizing a festival.
Well, now
poetry or rap songs. So I don't have a particular inclination to travel halfway around the world. Although if I wanted to travel somewhere, certainly Portugal would be on top of the list.
Why is that?
I know I've always been fascinated by Portugal and all things Portuguese.
Okay, so the invitation is up. Okay.
Thank you.
And Prabhu, how to contact you? Where can we find you? Facebook, Instagram? Where can we find you?
Yeah, I'm online 6 times a week. I do Srimad Bhagavatam class. Caru, Utah, Caru, then UTAH. I do Srimad Bhagavatam class, Mountain Daylight Time, every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday at 7:30. I do Chant for Change motivational Sunday feast talks on Saturday night at 7 and Sunday night at 5:15. And I also do a Krishna Light show, which features reminiscences from our time in Australia and our meetings with Prabhupada, as well as spiritual rap songs. Would you like me to?
Okay,
yes,
Vijay Krishna.
yes. Can you write it down on the chat box? Your address.
Oh,
already somebody has posted already.
Thank you. So it's already posted. Yes, it's already posted.
Vijay Krishna Prabhu.
I have a small question. Vanamali Prabhu, can I ask?
Yeah, I think we should thank Vijay Krishna Prabhu for all his wonderful questions.
Very
Prabhu,
good questions. Thank you so much, Prabhu. You're like a bee that pulls out the nectar. I didn't even know I had all that in me.
Yeah, no, he's very enthusiastic. I think thank you for giving opportunity to others, Vijay Krishna Prabhu, and thank you for all the questions. Now let us give opportunity to others. If anyone has any questions, please go ahead and ask.
Prabhu, I have a small question. Prabhu, I heard much about your Holi festival in Utah, Holi, the festival of color. Is it right? The same place, Prabhu? So just wanted to ask Prabhu, is that like, what are the cultivation, how you cultivate people after that, after festival happen? I'm just asking in preaching perspective, with such a festival, because United States, when under guidance of Vanamali Prabhu, we are preaching here. We are also having some, attracting student with some festivals and all. So what are the cultivation we are doing for them, for further, for follow-up programs, how we do? Just briefly, if we can.
The festival itself is meant to give the best impression of Krishna consciousness we can. Put our best foot forward, not be too overbearing or too heavy in our preaching. Make a really, really fun, memorable day for people. And we achieved that. Then, because it's kind of we don't just do one festival. The biggest one is here in Spanish Fork. We have 25,000 people over 2 days. But we also do one in our Salt Lake City temple, where we have 4 acres of land. We do one in Ogden, Utah. We do one in Las Vegas. We do one in Riverside, California, and also Los Angeles, California, and also San Fernando Valley, which is north of Los Angeles. So we do 7 festivals in 3 states. And, there's some preaching is meant to take one person, say 10 steps towards Krishna. But our preaching is meant to take 10,000 people 1 step towards Krishna. That's why sometimes we call it Krishna light. Now, I don't have a big crew. Most of these festivals out of state, it's just two of us that actually do the festival. And what we do is we post on volunteermatch.com and also on our website that we want volunteers. And so we're met at the other end by lots and lots of high school kids from Key Club and National Honor Society. Most of them Oriental, by the way. In Los Angeles and Whittier Park, we had 90 kids meet us at 8 o'clock in the morning that we were supposed to set up the festival. And then we have shifts from 8 to 1, and then from 8 to 2, and then 1 to 6. So another shift helps us take everything down and put it back in the truck. But if I had the help and I were able to do what I wanted as a follow-up, of course, you know, the temples in, you know, where we have the festivals, Las Vegas, they say people come to the temple like crazy in the weeks after. They come to the temple, they're excited, they want books, they've made devotees from it. But what I would do specifically is have a booth for a retreat. Have a nice booth with an articulate preacher, man or woman, some materials, and a sign-up sheet for a retreat, which would take place, say, a month after, with some very, very good devotees, someone like Radhika Raman or a good kirtan person, and charge something, have it either in a temple, which is nicely set up for it, or rent a facility, and then allow those people, because if 20,000 people come to a festival, there might be 200 people who might be interested in attending a retreat. And actually, we've had many retreats here in Spanish Fork. Paradoxically, our retreats occurred before the Festival of Colors. Because of our limited manpower, once the Festival of Colors started, we didn't have the people anymore to do the retreats. But if you could combine the two, that would be, so you get 20,000 people at a festival, you get a couple hundred people will attend a retreat, or maybe you have to have 2 or 3. And then out of those, you might get 15 or 20 who might seriously become devotees. That's the follow-up I dream of.
Okay, thank you, Guruji. Nice to see you are attracting so thousands of people. You know, it's really great work in North America. Here, thank you, Prabhu. Thank you for inspiring all of us.
Caru Prabhu, by your talk, I reminisce your talk in 2010 or 2009 in Washington, D.C. when you had come for, I think yes, exactly, outreach, bridge preaching. You remember, and I was there as one of the participants. We had only 20 participants were there. I still remember all your points. I still remember. And whatever you said just now, I think it is the same thing what you said like 10 years, 11 years before. Yeah, amazing. I admire you more now.
I need to start doing something new then, don't I?
Thank you. No, okay. I would let others ask
the opportunity. I have another appointment that I have to go to now, but I've really enjoyed your association. Thank you so very, very much for your attention and your questions. And maybe we'll intersect again.
Yes,
that would be my good fortune.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Caru Prabhu, if I may, Vinod Prabhu, Caru Prabhu, I only asked you a very restricted number of questions. I have millions of questions to ask.
Well, all I can say is I've got somebody calling me right now, but where there's a will, there's a way.
So I hope to see you again to ask millions and millions of questions more.
Okay. All right.
Thank you. Once again, Prabhu Charu, on behalf of entire ISKCON Boston, we would like to express our gratitude. Thank you. Haribol, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Thank you.
Dear devotees, to inform you about our class. Our class will be given by one of the very exalted His Holiness Giriraj Swami from 3 to 4:30 p.m. So please do join us too. Okay. Until then, please engage in chanting or reading something, or we'll see you back again at 3 o'clock. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki
Yes, I'll
jai.
be there. Vinod Prabhu, Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
Hari Bol. Dandavats.